Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And again, to you all for coming today, thank you so much. I'd like to echo what Representative Custer was saying. We're committed to eradicating sexual trauma in the military, and we're new, and we're all young members here. But our passion and our commitment to you today is that, you know, the bravery that you've exhibited by being here today, the courage on shining a light in the darkness makes a difference. We get calls every day now that we've talked about this from the time we've been here. Every day there's new people coming forward and sharing their stories, and your stories are going out today around the country. And that's why we're thankful that you made the trek, and just to let you know that we're standing with you and we're fighting for you. And thank you for your service to our nation. It's our turn to fight for you, and you have my commitment to continue to do this until we eradicate this from our military. Lisa, I wanted to ask you particularly because you are well informed, and you've made it a mission in the state of Indiana to find out the scope of the weaknesses, the strengths of the VA. How would you describe overall in the state of Indiana treatment for MST victims as you've pursued it, not only from your perspective, but because you know you have a wealth of information about how our state runs? How would you overall say the conditions are with treatment of MST?
Overall, in the state of Indiana, if I had to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, I would give it a 3 because they are making an effort. We have a military sexual trauma coordinator at the VA Medical Center in Indianapolis who is wonderful, but she is one person. We need more services of what has been talked about today, whether it's satellite clinics or using outside treatment facilities. But the issue needs to be addressed not only on a state level, but on a national level with you here today.
I appreciate it. And then also, if I could follow up on that, Lisa, I can just tell you the information we've heard from here today is tragic. It's just such a tragic story. And so we hear all these stories and we see all the data and we're listening to you. There's such a growing need to treat victims of MST. Why do you think, Lisa, as you've gone through this maneuvering process, what do you think the biggest issue is with the VA being so resistant to this information, and despite the pleas from veterans, thousands of veterans around the country?
I wish I could answer that and give you an answer of why, but I can't answer that because it doesn't make any sense to me. If the treatment is already set up in your local community, or you have avenues in your local community, but the VA doesn't have the services available, common sense would tell you, treat the veteran, treat the survivor, and we're not seeing that right now. And so going out into our local communities while the VA is developing their process would be something that would be beneficial.
And let me ask you this. You know, our hope is we passed this whistleblower protection law, as you're familiar with, and you were a helpful story with that as well. With whistleblower protection, you know, hopefully being valid and signed into law in January of 2015 or 14. And if we can move this Congress to get those outside services and those things provided outside of the VA, do you think we'll see an influx of folks reporting because they'll feel like they have a safe haven on one end in the military from retribution, and on the second side not be incumbent upon going to the VA for services that don't exist?
I think you will see MST veterans and survivors come out of the woodwork. There are men and women across this country who wore the uniform and were proud to serve, but haven't been proud of their service because of the experience they had. And if you give them the opportunity to give them skills to deal with years of unattended PTSD symptoms, I know these men and women will reach out and want to help themselves and their families.
I appreciate it. Anybody else want to chime in? We have 50 seconds.
Thank you, Congresswoman. You asked earlier about treatment at VA. One of the main problems is there's simply too few providers. I go to the Baltimore VA, and we're talking a big city here, and there's very few MST providers that are specifically trained in this area. You've heard all of us talk about our MST coordinators. It's a collateral duty. At a big city VA, even at the smallest VA, that's a full-time job. If I guarantee you, we could fill this room to overflowing with veterans who could talk about horrible treatment at the VA, and we're giving one collateral duty to one person. That's wrong. So let's get a lot more people in there that are trained and are willing to provide quality care, and let's get researchers in there that are willing to do the research, especially with male survivors. Thank you, Congresswoman.
I appreciate it. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I thank you for yielding and for your commitment and the commitment we share with this committee in addressing this critical issue for the survivors of military sexual trauma. And I want to thank every member up here for voting yes on the whistleblower protection bill that we passed through the House with a huge bipartisan group, and many of the co-sponsors are sitting here today. It's my honor to introduce Lisa Wilkin from Westfield, Indiana, a United States Air Force veteran who was sexually assaulted and consequentially 100% disabled as a result of the trauma endured from her horrific attack. Lisa is more than just a wonderful wife and a dedicated mother. She's a survivor. She's a survivor who has made it a mission to bring other victims out of the isolation and the shadows that they suffer through. She's also a veteran, and she has a right to receive access to meaningful treatment. Lisa, Victoria, Brian, and Tara, thank you for having the courage to testify before this committee today. Thank you for your tireless efforts to hold the VA accountable for treating victims of military sexual trauma. Mr. Chairman, I yield back.